Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing really well. So today I'm going to be reviewing a book by Dolores Cannon called Between Death and Life: Conversations with a Spirit. So let me just go ahead and show you the cover on my good old Kindle. Now this book has 16 chapters. I'll just show you the chapter names. This book is life-changing. Okay, so if you want to understand your life better, the afterlife, explore your purpose and your soul's journey here, and understand the many reasons as to why you choose certain experiences on earth, and just overall grow your spiritual knowledge, then I'd highly recommend Dolores Cannon's books to you. If you don't know who Dolores Cannon was, well, unfortunately, she passed away in 2014, and she was a pioneer in the field of past life regression and a renowned hypnotherapist. Okay, and she worked extensively to gain and document knowledge in the field of past lives. She was a prolific psychic researcher. Through her study of hypnosis, she developed unique methods by which she was able to get efficient release of information from her patients or her subjects. That's how she refers to them in the book. Now, one thing I have noticed about Dolores Cannon's books is that she advised some of them to be read in a sequence. And I love, there's a part in the book where she writes that in her study of death, she has found the celebration of life. In her study of death, she has found the celebration of life. I personally resonate with this, as in order to truly appreciate life, you need to understand death. Now, if you look at the first chapter, it's called The Death Experience. And Dolores Cannon presents each session with her patients in a particular format. So D is for Dolores, and S denotes the subconscious or the higher self of her patients. Basically, she has come to know time and again. She speaks about the process of death. It's usually very quick. The person looks down at their body and they're amazed to find out that they remain intact. Their personality is the same post-death, and that their body looks like any other. And she also goes on to point out something that is incredibly important for most people who live in fear, that, people fear that somehow the experience of death will change them into something else or unrecognizable. The personality remains the same. But in some occasions, the soul or spirit can experience a momentary confusion. However, it's still the same person. And the manner in which the individual dies may be different, but what happens afterwards is always the same. Dolores points out that we subconsciously are aware of what happens and what lies over there, as we have had so much practice at it countless times. The most common descriptions she found of the moment when death occurs is that there is a feeling of coldness, and all of a sudden, the spirit is standing by the side of their body looking at it. They usually can't understand why others around are so upset in the room where the death occurs, as they usually feel so wonderful. So the overall feeling is one of joy rather than dread. In one case, Dolores Cannon asked a patient who was recollecting the moment of leaving or having left her body due to experiencing difficulty of childbirth. So basically, after slipping out of her body, she said she was going to rest and was in the light. She was asked by Dolores about where this light is, and she informs her that this light was where all knowledge and everything is known. It's a place of purity, a place where there is pure truth, and that there is truth on earth, but we just don't see it. This woman chose to leave her body in that lifetime, as she was living out of fear of illness since her childhood, and this made her too weak. She had to overcome pain and rise above it. So pain, she goes on to inform Dolores, is a teaching tool, and when we understand why we have it, it can lessen the pain. It's important to not give power to pain. When we reach into our higher mind and spirit, it has no hold on us. Dolores asks, what is it like when we pass on? The subject replied that when in the body, it feels very heavy, and when you die, it's a lifting of weight and relaxing. So we basically toss out the weight of all our problems in life instead of carrying them. It's a transition. We just need to have faith and trust. This is stressed time and time again in her book. There is also no concept of time there. Fear is the monster in a man's mind, and it only affects those on earth, apparently. So the spirit is left unaffected. Our spirit is not affected by fear. Most of the cases throughout her book have highlighted as to how thoughts are also very real, in the sense that thought is energy. It is creative and makes things happen. And when Dolores Cannon remarks how the biggest fear of people is being scared of dying, one of her subjects says that it is actually one of the easiest things you'll ever do, where all confusion ceases to exist, and when you start all over again, then only there's confusion. People keep coming back to complete the cycle, to learn and overcome all worldly things in order to enter into perfection. And it's mentioned many times people choose to experience a lot of things in a lifetime to limit their trips back. Basically, there is no such thing as dying. You just go on to a different stage of your life. Okay, so I thought I'll change up the view a bit. So as I was saying, another interesting example that Dolores had come across many times was that the person has a choice. We always have a choice whether or not we want to stay before our actual passing away occurs or go through the process and leave and just watch. Apparently, the option is open to everyone. It is strictly up to the individual. Dolores remarks how this would be very reassuring and comforting to people who have lost loved ones in a violent or horrible way, to know that they might have not even experienced the most traumatic period of passing away. The spirit removes itself and the body merely reacts spontaneously. Another description of death she shared was that dying is as natural and painless as blinking of the eyes. Okay, there is a very interesting information on astral travel as well, where one of her subjects confirms when astral traveling, one goes out of the body, and there's this thing called the silver cord. This is the lifeline to your body, which maintains your energies to your body. So that is what connects your soul to the body when you're astral traveling. And this basically prevents you from being lost. It cannot be lost, your soul, when you're astral traveling. In many cases, it is spontaneous and not planned. So if a person chooses not to return, it is of his or her choosing, their own volition, and not like now. This is a great reminder. You know, the movie Insidious, for some of you who have seen the movie, great movie, by the way, they show that because of some malevolent energy that's behind the soul, that's why the soul cannot enter the body again. However, that is not the case. A person always chooses not to return. It is their choice, not because of some malevolent entity chasing them and severing the cord, the silver cord. So the silver cord is like an umbilical cord, which is connected with the body until the point of death. Okay. Dolores Cannon also talks about the concept of group deaths, where people die in accidents or natural calamities. In this book, she writes about group karma, which her subject spoke of. Apparently, these are individual souls who choose to depart and transition simultaneously, and this is agreed upon before their entry into their life. Now, in the second chapter called Greeters, she talks about how help is sent immediately, a handful of souls that you are close to and you have close karmic relations with in previous lifetimes. They are there to greet you, and the person is able to recognize them through their connection from past lifetimes. Another highlight from this book was that there is no need to fear death, as with its release, there is again life. Okay, I'm just referring to my notes here, for which far exceeds that which is there on this planet. Let me read that again. Hold on. Okay. There is no need to fear death, as with its release, there is again life, which far exceeds that which is there on this planet. How beautiful is that? Now, Dolores also talks about schools. So this is the chapter. Now, these are like schools of knowledge, where we go to once we cross over. Basically, it can differ from person to person. This is a spirit realm where you can visualize everything you want into existence here. You can make it as nice or as bad as you wish. In this place, you can also learn about what you have done during your time on Earth. On several occasions, when Dolores regressed different subjects, they would not be involved with a life. Their answers would reveal that they were in between, or that's where they were residing, somewhere in between on various spirit levels or planes. And the most common of these was the school. Once she asked the description of this place, to which her subject responded that the topography is similar to Earth, but it's more refined. So in that place, there are hills, valleys, and mountains, but the colors are more intense and the place is more pure. This book also talks about different levels of spiritual planes for spiritual development. It is more efficient to incarnate and complete learning on Earth because the ultimate goal is to be one with God. So you reach perfection by joining with God, and you don't have to come back here again. I've heard Dolores say time and again that Earth is just a school, and not only Dolores, even another renowned hypnotherapist who's into past life regression is Dr. Brian Weiss. He also mentions this many, many times, that the Earth is just a school of learning. Just yesterday, I was listening to one of her YouTube videos where she shared that the individual must never give up too soon, as the best could be yet to come. You don't know what contract your soul has signed up for on the other side before you took birth. So it's so important to hang on even if times are testing during our lifetime here on Earth. On spiritual planes, one of her subjects also confirmed that there are fairies and leprechauns. Is that how you pronounce it? Leprechauns, yes. But they are not in the physical plane, they're in the spirit realm. However, they can appear on the physical plane if they choose to. So they are very real, fairies and leprechauns. All spirits are basically evolving. If we learn to surround ourselves with what is good, this will keep away anything that is not good and negative from us. Another important point that you mentioned in this book, which I feel applies to a lot of us empaths, is that not to feel that you must help everyone all the time. Feel only that you should help when you want to help, as that is way better than forced help. Okay, so Dolores Cannon also mentions God as being gender neutral. It's a big blue orb of light, a source of unconditional love. It would be much like watching the aurora borealis. And there are councils who govern the universe. Each universe has a central council, and there are local councils as well. There's a whole chapter on this. There are many, many universes, and ours is one particular one. We are individual pieces of God. God is not one, but all. I was really intrigued by this chapter. There's a chapter on Satan, possession, and demons. So let's see what this chapter contains. Hold on. Okay, so it is mentioned in one of her interviews with the subject that the entity doing the possession is a warped spirit. Now, I found this really interesting because I heard this for the first time. A warped spirit, that is the entity that does the possession in us and human beings. Kind of like demons. They are lower human souls and have been warped through touch or contact by certain entities or even people. So they're bent and evil. These are known as an elemental type of spirit. The reason of their entry into someone's soul is due to serious imbalance there is in their karmic energies. It draws them in. In these cases, meditation can get things back in balance. They can pray as well, which is what takes place in exorcisms, where the priest prays to help the mind of the possessed in realizing the imbalance and fixing it. One of her regressed subjects was experiencing an in-between, where her subconscious mind expressed to her that we must always go by our instincts and to use our intuitive and psychic powers, as it is much easier to develop them here on earth. That is into the next chapter. Towards the end of the book, Dolores Cannon talks about a concept of imprinting. This idea was actually, I think I did read about imprinting in one of her other books. That was probably her first book that she published, called Past 5 Lives Remembered, or something like that. Okay, so this idea of imprinting was actually brought up by accident when she asked one of her male subjects a chance question. He told her how he was having his first physical life, his first true incarnation on earth, but he had had many imprints before. So this is basically where souls can withdraw information from Akashic records and imprint this information into their soul, and then it becomes their experience. Dolores Cannon also unexpectedly discovered the concept of walk-ins. Okay, I believe I read about walk-ins in that book, not imprinting. Okay, so anyway, there are two main ways an entity is born. Okay, they may enter the womb and go through the actual birth if they wish to experience this, or remain outside the baby's body, close to the mother, and just watch. They have the ability during this time to go back and forth to the spirit dimensions, as they are not yet totally connected to the baby. The main requirement is to enter the baby's body at the first breath. Failure to do this can also result in stillbirths. Walk-ins can also be perceived as exchange of souls. It means walking into a living body instead of being born as a baby. She encountered this phenomena in regressive hypnosis. This experience was of an entity that entered a young child who was very sick. An exchange of souls was made as the present soul wanted out. Sometimes souls sign up to experience too much of karma they choose to deal with, and when they decide to leave this body, it is not time to die. So another contract is made on the spirit realm, and a different soul walks in. So if the soul feels like they have taken on too much in their contract and it's overwhelming for them, they can choose to exit, and another soul walks in. Okay, so basically when souls choose to be born, they study the family they will be born into, so they know how to deal with them. They're usually people who have to work things out. These are the people who they have to work things out with. I remember, this reminded me of many cases where, there are miracle recoveries we hear about. If it's a baby or someone who had no chance of making it, and all of a sudden there's a healing and a miraculous recovery. So this made me thinking that maybe this is what it is. It's a walk-in where souls are exchanged, and our conscious self, we don't even know it, and we just go about our lives. I'm really grateful for having come across this book. It helps to understand life from a spiritual perspective and to let go of fears and doubts. Dolores Cannon, she said it best: such knowledge fosters a realization that what lies beyond the barrier is only a joyous homecoming. I would highly, again, I'm mentioning this, I would highly recommend everyone to read and get acquainted with the works of Dolores Cannon. It is not only healing, but her book have the potential to serve as a lifelong guide in your life. I hope you enjoyed this book review. I will be reviewing more books soon. And, books like these, each page is a learning. There's so much to take in, and it reconfirms a belief that death is truly not the end. All her books I find so healing because I lost my own mom to COVID in 2021, and books like these reassure my faith. And not only Dolores Cannon, I would highly recommend books by Dr. Raymond Moody as well. I will be reviewing some of his books in future. So thank you for staying with me in this book review. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you will do yourself a favor and start reading her books because they're completely worth it. Can't mention that enough. So till next time, I really appreciate you being here, and stay blessed.